Jason just found another one.
It's tiny.
It's bite-sized, babe, bite-sized.
So today, Jason and I went out morel hunting again, and we had a successful day. We were able to find 28 morels. So tonight for our dinner, I'm going to be making crab stuffed morel mushrooms, along with some freshly caught bass, white bass, and we've also got 2 crappies and 2 shell crackers that we caught yesterday that we're going to be cooking with our dinner tonight. So come along and join us as we cook this wonderful meal. Everything that we are eating tonight, we foraged. So we're pretty excited about that. We love to be able to do that in the spring here in Tennessee. So watch along as we make these crab stuffed morel mushrooms, and then we'll get the fish cooking here in our cast iron. If you like my content, like and subscribe for more outdoor recreation here in the heart of TAG, which is short for Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. So let's get to cooking these morel mushrooms. So this is actually the first time that I've ever made this recipe. So I did print it out. I found it on a website called the Forager Chef. And it's just called Crab Stuffed Morel Mushrooms. So I've already cleaned my mushrooms, and then I've actually already picked out the ones that I'm going to be stuffing. I made sure they fit in this nice little pan. So we're going to get to making these. So the first thing that the recipe calls for is cutting the mushrooms. So we're going to actually use my kitchen shears, and we're going to very gently cut along the mushroom, so when we make our crab mixture, we can stuff it inside of there. So let's see. We're going to just cut it right through here. Just very gently. And we don't want to go all the way to the top. We just want to be able to open it up a little bit, because we're going to stuff our mixture inside of there and then up into the mushroom. Okay, so we're going to cut this one very gently. Now, something else you can do, and I mentioned this in my cream sauce recipe, I'm making a crab mixture, but you can also use a cream cheese and then your favorite other shredded cheese. Mix those together. Let that cream cheese come to room temperature, obviously. Mix those together, and then you can stuff that in these, and then you can bread that and then deep fry those and have morel cheese sticks. But tonight we're making the crab. So we've got all of them cut. And now we're going to start mixing our crab mixture. So for the crab stuffing, the recipe calls for 8 ounces of crab meat, but I only bought 1 can, so we're doing 4 ounces because it's just Jason and I, so I didn't want to make a whole lot. So we're going to go ahead and put the crab meat into the bowl. Now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs, a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, a heavy 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 2 tablespoons of fresh herbs, and I'm not using fresh, I didn't have any, I'm using some dried parsley. Let's see, some Old Bay or some Cajun seasoning. We're going to sprinkle some of that in there. The recipe calls for, let's see, a 1/2 teaspoon, but we're just going to put a little bit more because we really like this stuff. I'm actually using Tony's. Some salt. You can also put some pepper in there, but I'll always leave the pepper out. Some garlic and some lemon zest. Let me get the garlic out of the refrigerator, and then we'll get the lemon zest going as well. So for the garlic, I didn't have fresh garlic, so I've just used the minced garlic that you can buy in the grocery store. And then the last thing is the lemon zest. And it says just fresh grated. It doesn't say how much, so just put that to your liking. Now, from what I read, this is considered a heavy dish. And so the lemon zest is good because it kind of lightens it up, if you will. I'm going to scrape the rest of that goodness off of there. Now, the recipe says to stir this gently. You don't want to completely just mash up all of your crab meat. Just want to get that mayonnaise good and mixed in there very gently. Get all of the seasonings mixed around. It smells absolutely wonderful. Now, if you're going to make this recipe, you absolutely must. If you're cooking with morels, you got to use the best ingredients. So if you're making this recipe, you absolutely must use real crab meat. Do not buy that imitation crab meat and put it in morels. All right, so I think I've mixed this well enough. So I'm going to get my baking dish back over here, and we're going to stuff this into those morels, get some melted butter, a little bit more breadcrumbs on top, and then get those in the oven. Okay, so now we are ready to start rocking and rolling on stuffing these mushrooms. We're just gonna, oops, don't want to lose any of that. Put some of that crab mixture in there. So just to show you guys, I just stuffed that in there. And then we're going to put that open side down. And then we're going to move on to the next one. Got to be a little gentle with these. I don't want to break them apart. And I think I probably got, you know, like I was saying, that recipe called for 8 ounces of the crab, but I think that would just make a ton, unless you had some really gigantic morels, but that would make a lot. I'm just going to get that stuffed in there. Wow, looking really, really good, guys. Got 2 more to stuff, but I've got more crab filling than I think I do morels out, which is not a problem because I've got more morels in the refrigerator. But I really wasn't expecting it to go this far with these morels. Maybe a morel in that dish. Just to show you, I'm just putting them in the dish. And this is the last one I had to stuff, but let's see what we can do. All that goodness in there. So someone had asked on one of my other videos if you can eat the stem of the morel mushroom, and you most certainly can. The entire mushroom is edible. I'm going to see if I can stuff a little bit more. I don't know, that one's pretty stuffed. Let's see. I think I'm going to get a few more morels out of the refrigerator because I have filled this dish. And so I'm going to make a few more. So I pulled out 2 more of these morels. And We're going to get them cut open. And now we're going to stuff these two. Sounds tight. Get down in there. There we go. Oops, spilled a little bit. There we go. Nice and stuffed. So the next step is to now put a little bit of breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, and then some butter over the top of these. So we're going to just sprinkle these with breadcrumbs. That'll give them a little bit of a crunchiness. Oh, wow, that's looking so good. Now we're going to put a little bit of cheese. Sprinkle that all on there. And I am using a Parmesan cheese. That's what the recipe had called for. And now we're going to sprinkle it or pour a little bit of this melted butter over each one. But I just finished sprinkling all of the butter over these morels. They look absolutely delicious as they are, but now we're going to bake them in the oven. Now the recipe called for 450 degrees, but I felt like that was a little high for 15 to 20 minutes. So I've bumped it down to 415, and we're going to get these in the oven and see how they turn out. Get these going in the oven. So I'm not sure what happened to the sound in my original audio. So I'm doing a talkover for the rest of the video. I'm explaining the fish that we had recently caught, which was some bass, crappie, and some shell cracker. I'm going to be preparing it in the cast iron skillet. I'm also going to be using some homemade mushroom seasoning that I made last year with some wild mushrooms that I dehydrated and put some other spices in there as well. And then we're going to saute those up in some butter. So these are the 2 pieces of bass. This is crappie, these 4 pieces. And then these 4 pieces are shell cracker. I'm going to sprinkle all of the fish with some of the homemade wild mushroom seasoning that I made last year. I'll flip them over and season them on the other side as well. I'm going to preheat my cast iron skillets by turning them on a medium low. I'm actually using 2 different skillets, one for the bass and then the other for the shell cracker and the crappie, because Jason doesn't like bass, so I'm going to cook it separately. Once your skillet comes up to temperature, go ahead and put some butter in and let it melt down, and then we'll add the fish. So I've already got the shell cracker and the crappie in the pan on the left. I'm adding the bass in this pan here. I'm keeping my heat on a medium to a medium low. It's not going to take very long to cook this fish, maybe 2 minutes per side, maybe even a little less for the smaller pieces like the shell cracker. 2 minutes is up, so we're going to go ahead and flip all of these over. I really hate it that the sound went out and that you can't hear that sizzle. And checking on those morel mushrooms, they were looking very, very good. The timer is up on the morels, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. I did actually end up bumping the temperature up to about 425, and those cooked for about 15 minutes. They were very nice golden brown, very bubbly as well. That butter was just bubbling in the bottom of that dish. And oh my, this smelled so, so good. I think this is my new favorite way to eat morels. Now I'm just going to plate up the fish, and then it's going to be time to eat this wonderful meal. So this recipe was fairly easy. When I went to the grocery store, there were not many ingredients that I had to purchase for this recipe, mainly the can of crab meat and then the cheese, but everything else I had in my pantry. So if you have some morels on hand, I highly, highly, highly recommend trying this recipe. I did end up making a few Brussels sprouts to go on the plate as well, so we would have a vegetable with this meal. So I just tasted the crab stuffed morels. Now Jason's going to taste them.
Wow.
That is delicious, is it not? Oh my gosh. Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. Wow. This crab stuffed morel, I think this is by far my favorite.
Yeah, it's pretty good.